In this video, I am making Pokemon extremely hard. I'm honestly not sure if this challenge is even possible, and no, this isn't a fancy mod that gave trainers new moves, new Pokemon, or changed really anything at all. I'm playing a vanilla copy of Pokemon Yellow. So how did I make this game so hard? I simply implemented one rule, a level cap. But Pokerux, level caps are used all the time. How will that make this game hard? In this run, I will be slicing that normal level cap in half. If the next gym leader's ace is level 32, my highest level Pokemon can only be level 16. Though I did allow my Pokemon to round up to the next level against odd level gym leaders. And spoiler alert, the Elite Four level cap is normally 62, meaning we will have to start the Elite Four with level 31 Pokemon. Is this even possible? You'll just have to watch to find out. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. I'm giving away a Nintendo Switch and a copy of Scarlet or Violet when we hit 10,000 subscribers. And we are almost there, so hit that subscribe button. Our run starts when we're gifted a Pikachu starter Pokemon, and we battle our rival Gary for the first time. And we lose. Fortunately, we don't have to win this battle, and this isn't a Nuzlocke. If it was, I don't think this would be possible. The benefit of doing this kind of run versus a Nuzlocke is that we can use as many Pokemon as we want, with no duplicates. So we will have a ton of options whether they are good or not. Originally, I was feeling good about this first gym because I knew we had access to Mankey before Brock. After I caught Mankey, I realized he doesn't learn a fighting move until level 9. That's no big deal, except that our level cap's only 6, because his Onix is level 12. This low level cap made me tread carefully on my way to Pewter City, but even doing so, I accidentally overleveled Pidgey on the way. Whoops! Another thing to note early on, and it will become more and more of a problem as we get farther behind in level, is a lot of wild Pokemon outspeed us, which means we can't make use of repels, and sometimes we can't escape and get KO'd by random Pokemon. This is going to make traversing caves and grass extremely tedious, but tedious is the name of this challenge after all, I guess. After getting a team of 6 up to the level cap, I decided it was time to give Brock a shot. Luckily, he's only rocking 2 Pokemon, so we at least have him severely outnumbered. I lead Nidoran with a strategy to growl down the Geodude's attack so that I can take it out easier. It is essential to lower his attack because it only has a single move, Tackle. Constantly being hit by his attacks while barely being able to touch his massive defense and rock typing is gonna be tough. So we gotta lower that attack. After several growls from Nidoran, I can bring in Rattata to lower defense with Tail Whip, but even after several Tail Whips, Tackle is barely doing any damage. My second Nidoran can't do much either, but here I find out that Mankey, though it doesn't know a fighting move, will still be our attacking stud. As long as it doesn't crit, canceling out all the Tail Whip and Leers we did, Mankey does significant damage with Scratch and is able to take down Geodude. But is this even possible to beat Onix after how much effort it took to take down Geodude? Well, it certainly won't be happening in this fight. I bring out Caterpie to attempt to slow down Onix because that Rock Snake is speedy for some reason. Maybe because they had to make up for that terrible attack. It doesn't last long, but soon after I see an opportunity for a future fight. Onix knows Bide, which takes in damage dealt to itself during Bide and releases it back at us. But really what it does is give us free multiple turns to use moves like Tail Whip or Growl to lower its stats while Bide fizzles. Eventually we lose this fight, but I had hoped that the fight won't be as bad as I thought it might be. But even with this realization, this fight was not a cakewalk. Onix knows the move Bind, which in Gen 1 hits for multiple turns and also doesn't allow you to attack while the move is still going. And the move can last for 2 to 5 turns. If you're slower, you will never attack until Bind misses. This is why String Shot from Caterpie is so important. It not only allows us to outspeed, but also stops these stupid shenanigans of Bind. Basically, this fight comes down to if we're able to keep Mankey alive long enough to do damage to both Geodude and Onix. In this attempt, the Nidorans were able to work the Geodude down with Leers and Growls, then deal enough damage to Mankey to come in and finish it off. Once he sent out Onix, I bring in Caterpie for the all-important String Shot. From there, Pikachu was able to growl it to -6 and Tail Whip it to -6 as well. Because the only damage-dealing move Pikachu has is Thunder Shock, it can't actually deal damage to Onix, but lowering its stats is super important. But after everything's been lowered all the way, I bring out Caterpie for another String Shot and to start dealing damage. After an epic back and forth of 1 damage at a time, Caterpie finally faints, but not before whittling it down quite a bit. We have Onix in a good spot, but I only have 1 Pokemon left that can hurt it. It all comes down to Mankey. Scratch is dealing serious damage, well, for this fight at least, but a Bind in return lasts multiple turns and does a quarter of our health. Fortunately, Onix wants to Bide and we're able to Leer until it's over. After another Bind scare, then a Screech, I swap back to Pikachu to shake the defense drop, then come back to Mankey, who's able to finish the job with a couple of more scratches. Whew, that was just Gym 1. This challenge is going to be ridiculous. I make my way through Route 3 and into Mount Moon. Every fight is a little scary because our levels are so low. The level cap did get a boost up to level 11. Wow, so high. But we are still regularly facing stronger Pokemon than we have on our team. Even simple fights like the Pokemon Yellow exclusive Jesse and James fights can be extremely annoying. They lead with a level 14 Ekans, which is rocking the most awesome and fun move ever, Wrap. I already explained why this move is so annoying, and here it isn't any better. After finally dealing with that Pokemon, their real ace comes out, Meowth. That cat starts smacking our Pokemon around like they're piñatas. I can't believe how much damage this thing is doing, knocking out 5 of my Pokemon with ease. After rethinking our strategy for the next battle, I discovered that Low Kick is able to do a massive amount of damage to Meowth, but before that we need to set up a couple of growls to keep Mankey alive. I managed to get to Coughing and whittle it down to low HP, but still get taken out. It seems like we're close, but things can go much worse. Ekans massacres multiple attempts by using Wrap right off the bat and taking out our first Pokemon without even getting touched. After it happened several times, I decided to start leaning Metapod in order to get an early string shot off. This helped us with the consistency and allowed more runs to get past Ekans and Meowth. After about 20 attempts, I got to an attempt where Ekans missed a Wrap and allowed us to string shot for free. A Poison Sting KO'd Metapod, but its job was done. I sent out Pikachu to growl the stake down to -6 through a ton of damage. From here, Nidoran is able to tackle it down, even being level 6. And even after that heroic takedown, Nidoran is able to get a Leer off before Meowth takes it out. I decided to get gutsy and try to finish it off with Mankey without any growls. Low Kick did a ton of damage, but Meowth did just too much damage in response, and Mankey went down. Fortunately, Spearow was able to do enough to get us to Coughing again. It comes in clutch and is able to growl twice at low HP before going down, giving us a great chance to finally beat this random fight. Pikachu adds a third growl and does small damage with Thundershock before going down, leaving this fight to Sandshrew. An intense back and forth full of scratches, smogs, and poison damage, and a clutch miss ends in insane fashion as Sandshrew holds on from poison damage at 2 HP and squeaks out the win. Finally, that took a ridiculous amount of time to beat. I'm sure we won't have any other fights that take that long in this run.
Epic foreshadowing.
I finally make my way to Cerulean, which gives us access to Bulbasaur. This Pokemon is an absolute game changer for us because it gets Leech Seed, a move that will be pivotal for us moving forward. And it's time to see it in action for the first time as we take on our rival. He leads with a massive level 18 Spearow, but our Geodude's massive defense and typing is good. We slowly whittle it down and eventually take it out, despite the 7 level difference. He follows with a Sandshrew, and because it doesn't know a ground move, I decide to let Geodude do as much as it can. After some cheap sand attacks lower Geodude's effectiveness, it eventually faints. Here's where we're able to try out our new ace in the hole, Leech Seed. After laying the seeds, I quickly swap out Bulbasaur in order to preserve its HP for other Pokemon. If a Leech Seed can constantly be active, it will both damage these high level Pokemon and heal mine massively. This will make dealing with these higher level Pokemon a lot easier. Our Sandshrew gets cheesed by sand attacks and taken out, so I bring out Pikachu to growl over and over until Leech Seed finishes it off. His next Pokemon, Rattata, quickly eliminates the Pokemon mascot, so our Mankey comes in for vengeance. Finally, out comes Eevee, which Mankey is also able to handle with a couple of low kicks. Hey, maybe this challenge won't be so bad after all. A couple of minutes later, I realized how wrong I was. I ran into a hiker on Route 25 on my way to Bill's house, and it was a big reminder of how annoying this challenge can be. A random trainer with only 2 Pokemon is able to wipe out my team easily. I even had to switch to a different trainer to get by and actually make it to Bill's house. After many long minutes, I finally get to Bill's house and can finally challenge Misty. She only has 2 Pokemon, but both Staryu and Starmie are really fast and hit hard. And of course, they're double our level. I start off with our new ace Bulbasaur, who's able to set a Leech Seed. I swap out to save Bulbasaur for Starmie. We'll need Leech Seed for that as well. Staryu's Water Gun does a ton of damage and it takes out back-to-back Pokemon. Pikachu does good damage as well, but Water Gun is just too much. Mankey finally is able to finish it off, only to be annihilated by Starmie. Bulbasaur comes out and misses a pivotal Leech Seed, but Starmie decides to do nothing for multiple turns. Because Bulbasaur resists water, Starmie's good AI makes it use moves like Harden and Tackle. But even with Growls and Leech Seed healing, Starmie's Tackle is able to outpace Bulbasaur and take us out. I still have a chance with Clefairy, but Starmie is free to use Water Gun, and that finishes my team. Pretty close. I think we can do this pretty easily. Or so I thought. After multiple more attempts, I realized that we got pretty lucky in that first attempt. Sometimes, Staryu itself can take out most of our team. We need to have multiple Pokemon for Starmie in order to have a chance to win. In this attempt, I only had a Rattata on 6 HP and a Bulbasaur left going into Starmie, which basically means I had no chance. I kept going and I land a couple of quick attacks before Rattata goes down, then set a Leech Seed with Bulbasaur and start dealing damage with Tackle. Starmie knocks me down to 1 HP, but miraculously Starmie goes for Harden, Miss Tackle, and Hardens more, which allows Bulbasaur to heal over half through Leech Seed. I honestly thought this was the winning attempt, but Starmie ended what would have been an insane comeback with a critical tackle, hitting through stat changes and KOing my Bulbasaur. That went from having 0 hope to I thought we might win to back down to nothing. After over 25 attempts, I decided to rethink my strategy. I swapped in Pidgey for Rattata, and on my first attempt, I used Sand Attack on Staryu. Immediately after doing so, I decided I wanted to implement a new rule, and that was to ban accuracy-lowering moves. It just makes these fights too easy if you could make them miss every attack. I wouldn't feel like I accomplished something if I win this run using moves like Double Team or Sand Attack, though you can argue that Sand Attacks is more fair due to it only impacting one opposing Pokemon instead of making your Pokemon impossible to hit. After this decision, I lost the fight. I decided to swap Pidgey out and grab Spearow because Pidgey only really had Sand Attack as a useful move. After this, I gave it more tries, but attempt after attempt ended with Starmie wiping through my team. If Starmie faces any Pokemon but Bulbasaur, Water Gun and Bubble Beam one-shot everything. In order to win this, I will need Bulbasaur to be the hero. After nearly 50 attempts, I get a run where I make it to Starmie with 3 Pokemon left and have to swap in Bulbasaur. Fortunately here, Starmie goes for Harden, which allows Bulbasaur to lay Leech Seed. A couple of tackles land us at 1 HP, but Bulbasaur heroically hangs on and starts to slowly recover turn by turn. Starmie, like the Dallas Cowboys, refuses to finish the job and continues to hit Bulbasaur to low HP, then allows Bulbasaur to recover back to a range where it can survive another tackle. As we whittled down Starmie's HP, I gained more and more hope. Maybe this is the run. Maybe all of our efforts were not in vain. The 50 attempts we've had on here, the 20 attempts on Team Rocket, the 6 attempts on Brock. Maybe this is where we finally move on. I was wrong. Critical hit tackle hits through everything and takes me out. But it's not over yet. Nidoran was able to survive a couple of turns, and between tackle and Leech Seed, Starmie was nearly dead. It finished my Nidoran and left me with one hope: Mankey. I just needed an item or a hardened turn, and this could be it. But Starmie finally decided to be competent and murdered my poor Mankey with a massive Bubble Beam. Oh, so close. Starmie's speed is ridiculous, and since the speed stat in Gen 1 is a huge part of how often Pokemon crit, Starmie tends to crit a lot. Only a couple of attempts after this tough loss, I get an attempt where I get a Starmie with 5 Pokemon left and land Leech Seed and a Growl. After a ton of tackle, Leech Seed turns, this looks like the attempt. Bulbasaur is able to whittle Starmie down to red HP while we're rocking nearly full HP with 4 Pokemon remaining. One more turn and this thing is done, and of course, Starmie crits at the worst possible time, taking our Bulbasaur out. I send out Pikachu and go for a quick attack, thinking this could be the end, but it isn't quite enough, and Bubble Beam KOs. I still have 3 Pokemon left, but the next 2 get one shot, one after the other. And I should mention, Gen 1 Leech Seed doesn't proc unless your Pokemon survives, so I'm not getting any benefit there. Our final Pokemon, Spearow, comes out, and miraculously, Starmie goes for a tackle, giving Spearow a chance to finish the fight, and Starmie survives on 1 HP and finishes us off. That is literally as close as it gets. This fight has been absolutely brutal. After so many attempts that I've lost count, I finally get an attempt where Bulbasaur was able to lay Leech Seed and dodge a crit. After a bunch of turns of tackle and Leech Seed, Bulbasaur finally ends our misery and takes down Starmie. Well, I say it ends our misery, but that was only the second gym badge, so I guess we're just getting started. After spending entirely too much time on a work trip in Cerulean, thanks Misty, it's time to go on vacation. How about a cruise on the SS Anne? This should be nice and relaxing. Gary, what are you doing here? He starts with a Spearow, which our Pikachu takes down with ease, not taking any damage by dodging a Fury attack and taking Leers. Rattata comes out next, so I bring out Metapod to hit with a String Shot, and he manages to hit before going down. This seemed like a good idea, until I remembered Rattata had Quick Attack, so speed drops essentially do nothing. I bring out Nidoran and attempt to double kick it down, and he does significant damage, but 2 Quick Attacks finish us. Nidoran Male attempts to avenge his namesake, but goes down with a single hit. Clefairy is finally able to take it out, but we still have 2 more Mons to worry about. Sandshrew starts with disgusting accuracy strats, then knocks Clefairy into another dimension. I get a couple of Leers off of Spearow without taking any damage, then decide to swap into Pikachu to shake an accuracy drop with Sand Attack. Sandshrew just keeps dropping our accuracy, which is honestly not a bad thing, because when it attacks, it nearly KOs every time. Eventually it does so and we wipe. I didn't even make it to its final EV, so I'm going to need to rebuild our team. I swap in Mankey and Geodude and head back to the boat. This time, Spearow doesn't go down so easily. Pikachu gets wrecked, and it even takes out Geodude in the process. After losing Clefairy and Rattata afterward, I reset. There's no way we were winning this fight. I will need another start where Pikachu takes out Spearow to have a good chance to win. The next battle goes slightly better, and Geodude makes it to Rattata. My overall plan is to growl down Rattata and take it out with a low kick from Mankey. I managed to do so in this fight, and once it gets to Sandshrew, it gets tough. Both of its moves are bad news, either massive damage from Scratch or Sand Attack making it hard to hit our moves. I eventually make it through, but with only 1 Pokemon left myself. Eevee knows both Sand Attack and Growl, so taking this thing down through both accuracy and attack drops is going to be tough. Spearow's basically doing nothing, and if Eevee ever clicks Tackle, it does massive damage. Finally, after a painful back and forth, I lose again. After a few more attempts, Pikachu manages to clear Spearow alone, then land 2 quick attacks on Rattata before going down. Perfect start. I couldn't have asked for more from the Electro Mouse. I decided to go straight for Mankey instead of growling, and Mankey tanks a hit and is able to low kick down Rattata. 2 down, and I've only lost 1 Pokemon. When Sandshrew comes out, I opt for 1 Leer in order to lower its defense for the next Pokemon, and Sandshrew finishes our monkey. Clefairy comes out and manages to land a couple of Growls before going down. With Sandshrew at -2 attack and -1 defense, it's time to make our move. I send out Rock with Arms and start to tackle, only to realize that -1 defense is not really helping that much. This is like a 10-hit KO, and that is if he doesn't start using Sand Attack and causing us to miss. Fortunately for me, Geodude is eating hits like a champ, barely taking any damage. After After several turns of back and forth and being hit by multiple sand attacks, I swap into Nidoran in order to regain some ability to hit my opponent. Because of our previous growls, Nidoran tanks a hit fairly well until a high critical hit ratio / KOs us. This Sandshrew is an absolute menace. Geodude is back out and doing his thing. I decided to leave him in no matter how many sand attacks he uses. And finally I'm able to take it down, but Geodude only has a third of its HP. Swapping here would just waste our remaining health, so I decided to stay in and spam tackle. Eevee just continues to not attack and allows Geodude to do a ton of damage, knocking Eevee down to about half health. My accuracy has gotten so low that I decided to give Spearow a try. The bird is able to avoid getting hit and do a decent amount of damage, but eventually Eevee uses tackle, which finishes it, leaving us with a Geodude on 8 HP. After a few turns of back and forth, Eevee is in red HP, and for some inexplicable reason, I lose my mind and start using Defense Curl. I have no idea what I was thinking, and doing this allowed Eevee to heal with the potion. Uh-oh, I think I just threw it. All I had to do was hit with another tackle or two, but I gave it a chance to heal. Okay, maybe not. I think Eevee is just gonna use non-attacking moves. Oh, okay, it's over. We win. Awesome. I don't know how we won that. Okay, great. Awesome. Whew. But man, will this challenge ever get any easier? The short answer is yes, because we still have Surge on the docket. But what makes Surge easy, you ask? He's rocking just a single Pokemon, Raichu. That means we just need to land a Leech Seed and wait out the win. Well, maybe next time? Okay, surely third time's the charm here. Surge cuts us some slack and uses an X item, so Bulbasaur is finally able to land a Leech Seed. After that, a growl from Bulbasaur and a ton of misses from Raichu is enough to slowly make our way to victory. After nearly every fight being a struggle, it's nice to get a relatively quick win, even if Raichu didn't want to cooperate at first. After making my way through Rock Tunnel, stop appearing, Zubat! To Lavender and gaining access to Celadon, we can take on Erica. In most Generation 1 challenges, you probably completely forget about Erica. Her team is not super memorable in Red and Blue, or even Yellow, and most of the time you have a hard counter that can handle basically all of her Pokemon. Well, spoiler alert, this is not the case in this challenge. On my first attempt, I didn't bother to level up to the cap of 16. Her highest level is 32, so we get all the way up to level 16, baby. A lot of our Pokemon can evolve, but I didn't even bother to do that because it's Erica. It's the grass gym. Who cares? I wasn't worried much, but right away I saw that this might be tougher than I expected. I attempted to just annoy Tangela to death with Paralysis, Supersonic, and Leech Life, but being at level 30, it took ages to whittle down. And with so many chances to attack, Tangela was able to use Bind multiple times, which was an instant swap. I can't stay in for Bind because if I try to attack again, it just keeps hitting me over and over and we lose tons and tons of HP. After several turns of swapping and taking tons of damage, we finally took down her first Pokemon. At this point, it's not looking too hard, right? But here's where it got scary. Next, she sends out Weepinbell. Okay, Weepinbell? Has that ever been scary before? Well, this one-shots every single one of my Pokemon. I immediately knew that I needed to get my team to the level cap for any hope of surviving one Weepinbell attack. After grinding the team up, I gave Erica another try. Let's see what's gonna happen now. This time, I led Butterfree to paralyze Tangela. This is really important because it lowers Tangela's speed, which makes its bind a lot less scary. If it outspeeds, it hits continuously, and we can't respond. With Paralysis, we outspeed, so bind can still hit, but we're able to go first. Then there's a chance it can attack because of status, and if we want to, we can just swap out. Another thing to note from this attempt is that Erica will use a Super Potion on Tangela if it gets low, which can mess up a clean attempt if it heals and then uses Bind. Eventually, I reset this attempt after Tangela takes out multiple Pokemon. After running it back a ton of times, I found out a few important details that I will need to incorporate into my strategy in order to give myself a sliver of a chance to pull this off. When leading Butterfree, Tangela will only use Constrict or Bind due to Vine Whip and Mega Drain being resisted. If Tangela goes for Bind and doesn't miss, it's an automatic reset. If it goes for Constrict and Stun Spore hits, then the attempt can go on. If Stun Spore misses and Butterfree gets hit again, even with Constrict, it's now on too low of HP for Weepinbell later on. We'll get into more of how that's going to work out later. Once that part of the plan goes correctly, I can bring out Spearow to deal damage. Once it's hit with a Bind, I can swap it to Charmeleon, and if hit by a Bind, I swap back. Otherwise, I go for Ember for more damage. After Tangela dominated both Pokemon, I was forced to try Zubat, which seemed to fare much better with Confusion and Leech Life shenanigans. Once Weepinbell came out, I swapped in Nidoqueen, a newly evolved Pokemon, and got one shot with Razor Leaf. Here's where I realized I'd made a mistake strategizing. I evolved Nidoqueen thinking it would be better than Nidorina, but yeah, Pokemon fans, what's the big difference between Nidoqueen and Nidorina? Nidoqueen gains the ground typing and is now not grass resistant due to poison resisting, but ground being weak, so it is now neutral. I just sat and stared at the screen for a few seconds, baffled by my stupidity. I need every little thing to go my way here, and I just wasted what might have been a really useful Pokemon. I've already saved and locked in the evolution, so bye-bye Nidoqueen. After this, I decided it was time to add Ivysaur to the team. This seems like common sense because of the defensive resistances, but I initially left it out because its star move Leech Seed is rendered ineffective due to their grass typing. But now that we know Weepinbell is an absolute menace, maybe Ivysaur can take a shot and growl its attack down. And it can! That was actually a massive breakthrough. I've already been doing this attempt for over an hour of real time, so just having something that can survive Weepinbell gave me a lot of hope. But now the real question, does that growl make any difference? After a few Pokemon go down to Razor Leaf, a special move, so not relevant to the growl question, I send out Butterfree to see if it can take a -1 acid, and it can't. This was a huge bummer because if it had survived, I would have been able to Stun Spore or Sleep Powder. Landing one of those would at least make this battle feasible, but if we can't, I'm not sure it's possible. Ivysaur Growl was progress, but I need to tweak the team more. I swap in both Bellsprout and Nidorino for the resistances to see if we can survive a few more Weepinbell attacks. For context, at this point, I've probably tried 50, 100 fights. I honestly have no idea. It's been about an hour and a half of real time, with the gameplay sped up several times, of course, and with some swapping and training between. I even tried swapping it up and using Sleep Powder to start, then Confusion for damage. But after Confusion is barely doing any damage, I went to Charmeleon. After doing a ton of damage and forcing a Super Potion, Tangela hits with a bind and causes us to swap back and forth. Finally, out comes Weepinbell, our nemesis. Will we ever get past this? Don't forget, she still has Vileplume too. After KO on Charmeleon, Ivysaur gets an insane Gen 1 miss. 100% accurate moves will miss 1 in 256 times in Gen 1, which is a pretty weird glitch, and we might need this to actually win. And here it allows us to get a second growl off. Now we can see if this actually matters. This in turn keeps Ivysaur alive on 5 HP, and it gets a third growl off. Surely Butterfree can survive an acid now. I bring out Butterfree for the moment of truth, and a critical hit hits through the -3 attack drop and KOs. I was extremely fortunate to get the Gen 1 miss opportunity, and it was wiped away by a single crit. Ugh. A few battles later, and I get a battle where Charmeleon takes out Tangela with nearly full HP. Once Weepinbell comes out, I take an acid down to 2 HP, then growl it. After it finishes our Charmeleon, I bring out trusty Ivysaur, who tanks an acid and lands a second growl. Ivysaur heroically survives on 1 HP and lands a third growl, and this time without a Gen 1 miss. I bring out Butterfree, who's on 44 HP, and it tanks the acid and lands Stun Spore. This is huge. This fight might be possible now. I followed Butterfree with Zubat, who was able to confuse the Weepinbell into a ton of damage with a 4 times effective leech life. Gen 1 Poison was weak to Bug, and Bug is also super effective against Grass. Eventually, after nearly 2 real-time hours, Zubat took down Weepinbell for the first time. And no time to celebrate, out comes Vileplume, who hits for a ton of damage with Petal Dance, and Zubat, of course, whiffs a Supersonic. You couldn't just throw us a bone, Zubat, you had to miss the Supersonic. Vileplume takes down back-to-back Pokemon, but Nidorino makes a valiant last stand, surviving multiple turns and doing a ton of damage, eventually going down. Wow, that was so close. I thought we might have had that one. Either way, I left that fight feeling encouraged, knowing that if we can replicate that fight, we can finally win this thing. And knowing that, I took a break because I'd been playing for 4 straight hours. The next day, I got back to work and decided to give Charmeleon a new move. If it could survive an acid like it did in the previous battle, a move like Counter would go crazy. I taught it, then gave it a few attempts. After 2 attempts with the perfect setup, only to be crit on the turn I was using Counter, I finally got the perfect situation, only to discover that Counter in Gen 1 only works on normal and fighting moves. What in the world? Gen 1 is so weird. After that, I decided to add Reflect to Charmeleon instead, a move that in Gen 1 unfortunately does not boost your team's defense, but only a single Pokemon. But it did allow Charmeleon to tank acids if it could get set up before Weepinbell came out. After a ton more attempts with no luck, I took another break. Day 3, is this the day? I attempted many different things, first by changing my strategy to lead Stun Spore, then go Zubat for Confusion and Leech Life. I tried this before, but I finally settled on it being the best strategy to take down Tangela the most consistently. I tried using Bite after the paralysis, but soon realized that Gen 1 Bite only flinches 10% of the time, rather than the usual 30%. That makes a massive difference here. After an hour and a half of attempts, I get an insane run where Charmeleon is able to set up Reflect before Weepinbell and also gets Weepinbell with nearly full HP. Then I get not 1, but 2 Gen 1 misses. This is insane. This could be it. Charmeleon gets off multiple growls and does a ton of damage with Ember, but unfortunately it burns, which means I can't Stun Spore. So I have to stand with Charmeleon, who does almost 3/4 damage before going down. After I decide to go to Ivysaur, it can easily tank acids from a -3 Weepinbell, unless it crits. I send out Bellsprout, who I think can take an acid, and then we'll be able to cheese it with Wrap, unless it crits. Oh, come on. Now I have to go to Butterfree, and I nearly take it down with a Confusion. And Butterfree should be able to take 1 more before going down, unless it crits again. 3 crits. I was so angry at the time because I'd been on this fight for hours. Looking back, the double Gen 1 miss earlier in the fight kind of balanced it out. Either way, I'm still kind of upset that that didn't work out. After 2 hours, I even tried using Bide, an absolutely awful move, but as you can tell, Well, I'm desperate. Obviously, this didn't work. After nearly 2.5 more hours of attempts, I called it a day. At this point, I was getting discouraged. I felt like I had tried everything, but nothing was that close. I couldn't believe how hard Erica turned out to be. I mean, we had been through tons of other tough fights. Misty took a countless amount of attempts. Team Rocket took 20 attempts. Brock even took a few attempts. But Erica topped them all. She's usually such a pushover, and even in a challenge this difficult, I thought that there would be a strategy I could use to make this fight possible. But even with access to tons of different types of Pokemon, status moves, and TMs, I still couldn't find a consistent strategy. It was here I realized that this fight was not going to be consistent in any way. It was going to rely on pure grit and determination to spam this fight over and over until I got the luck I needed to pull this thing out and win. The next day, I started doing just that. I got on my Rocky training regimen. I said, this is gonna be it. I don't care. This is the moment we win this thing. Though I had already done hundreds of attempts, I was committed to doing hundreds or even thousands more if necessary. I refused to let this challenge end at the grass gym leader. After only about 25 minutes, I got an attempt where I was able to paralyze Weepinbell, then wrap it to death with Bellsprout. I was then able to tank an acid and do damage with Wrap, but not nearly enough. I got another Gen 1 miss and landed an inaccurate Supersonic. What an insane turn of events. Zubat hung on for several turns, doing damage both with Leech Life and Confusion, but unfortunately went down, leaving Nidorino to fall last. This was my closest attempt in a long time, and coming so early in my day of attempts, I was encouraged that this was the day. As I was doing attempts, I thought to add one more tweak to my team. I decided to add Venonat to my team and teach it Psychic from Mr. Psychic. Venonat with both Supersonic, Reflect, and Psychic turned out to be a good addition, but still not good enough to move that needle, or at least not yet. 2 hours later, I still hadn't done it. This gym had now reached the 8 real-time hour point. I play on 5 times speed, which means that if I had played the game on a normal speed, this would have taken 40 hours. A regular work week. And I'm not talking about the whole challenge. I'm talking about just Erica. From my first attempt to this point is the equivalent of 40 hours worth of attempts. But I wouldn't give up. I got an attempt where I got Tangela to miss to start, and I landed Stun Spore, the perfect start. From there, I swapped to Venonat, who sets up Reflect and lands a Supersonic. Unfortunately, Tanga snaps out quickly and lands a Bind. I swapped to Zubat to shake the confusion, and I went with the same confusion strategy and followed it up by healing with Leech Lives. I swapped to Venonat, hoping to lower its special with Psychic second effect and get hit by Bind. This forced me to go to Charmeleon, but a miss allows him to stay in and set up Reflect. Charmeleon is doing good damage, and even when Bind hits, I decided not to swap out because of Reflect and the potential for Tangela to be paralyzed. Eventually, we take it down, but I only have 13 HP remaining. Weepinbell takes it out straight away, so my next best option is Zubat, who immediately gets Stun Spored and whiffs a Supersonic. Honestly, this is not going that well. Fortunately, Zubat hung on after an acid and hits the Supersonic this time. I bring out Ivysaur and use our newly added move, Body Slam, a TM from the SSN. I added this move for one purpose, paralysis, and boom, it gets it turn 1. This keeps me from having to bring out Butterfree and waste HP in order to paralyze, so getting that 30% chance is really big. But this did open the door for our Bellsprout to wrap her Weepinbell all the way down to death. Being faster, as long as Wrap does not miss, Bellsprout will take it down. Eventually, and with bated breath, I watch Bellsprout slowly, very slowly, through an Erica potion, whittle it down to low health, almost 0, red HP, oh no it missed, and acid one-hit KOs. No, we were so close. That leaves me with 2 Pokemon. I bring out Venonat and take it down with Psychic. Out comes her Gloom. What? Wait, Gloom? I've been calling this thing Vileplume the whole time, haven't I? Whoops. Petal Dance doesn't kill, and thankfully Supersonic lands. We just need a little bit more luck to pull this off. And it hits through and takes down Venonat. It's all up to Butterfree. First turn with Butterfree. Gloom stays confused. And it hits itself. Now just hit Sleep Powder. Yes! Confusion does decent damage. Just need more sleep. Keep snoozing. Count those sheep. Oh no, it woke up. And it hit itself. Oh my goodness, is this it? After what seems like forever? I have finally beaten Erica. Wow, that was a challenge I never expected. But you better believe I was jumping up and down, fist pumping after I pulled this off. Wow. Oh my goodness. I cannot tell you the relief I felt beating this fight. I mean, what has it been, like 2/3 of the video on Erica? Yeah, but I had to just translate how long and how tedious this fight was, but beating it was one of the most awesome moments I've ever had on the channel. Because we just spent a lifetime on Erica, I'm going to skip right to the Silph Co rival. The new level cap is 50 because both Gym 5 and Gym 6 have level 50 max Pokemon, which will be tricky. Try not to overlevel our best best Pokemon. After a few attempts where I was just winging it with no plan, I finally started to think and let off with Ivysaur to get a Leech Seed set. From here I could swap the Geodude, install it while Leech Seed whittles it down, and it heals me. Except Slash one-shots with a crit. This convinced me to go level up my Pokemon since they were all 5 to 7 levels under the cap. And with it being a half level cap, that was quite a gap. After doing some leveling, I started with Leech Seed like before, but this time I swap into a new Pokemon, Onix. Onix has the benefit of the rock typing, but even better defense than Geodude. Another awesome benefit of the Rock Snake is that it knows Screech. This is not a move I normally run, but in a challenge like this, being able to sharply lower your opponent's defense is huge. After a tedious back and forth where I was screeching and Sandslash was sand attacking, Onix eventually is able to take it out with tackles and seed damage, ending with full HP. Magneton comes out, so I swap back to Ivysaur for Leech Seed, then go back to our ace in the hole, Onix. Onix is even better here because Magneton's electric moves don't affect it, but it does have Sonic Boom, which will do 20 damage each time. After screeching its defense down, Onix is able to toss enough rocks to take down the Magneton. I stayed in for a rock throw, but Ember does over half to Onix. I brought in Charmeleon and set up Reflect. Cut does okay damage, but after a Tail Whip, I respond back by using Growl. Ninetales really starts to lower my defense, so I kept using Cut for damage and slowly got it to red HP, but Ninetales finally attacks me and 2 quick attacks take us down. Our main stud Onix is able to come back in and finish it off with a rock throw. So far this fight doesn't seem too bad. That is, until Kadabra came out. It instantly takes down my Onix, but Drowsy is able to come in and put it to sleep, but Pound is barely doing any damage. Even getting off 4 pounds uncontested doesn't make a difference because Kadabra just wakes up and uses Recover, healing completely. I try to put it back to sleep, but it misses twice and Kadabra nearly takes me down. Here I swap strategies and bring out Geodude and use the ultimate move, Self-Destruct. It thankfully is able to take out the scary Kadabra, leaving us with only one more Pokemon. I try to lead off with an Ivysaur Leech Seed, but Vaporeon takes it down in one shot. Same thing happens to Ghastly and Drowsy, and just like that, the battle's over. This fight definitely seems doable. I don't think we'll be spending 8 hours on it, right? The next attempt, Sandslash took out my Onix, so I reset. But the next battle, I realized an epic strategy. Onix plus Leech Seed plus Bind. If Onix is binding a Pokemon, they cannot move, plus they take Leech Seed damage every single turn, making this a pretty incredible strategy. With that being said, the fight still ended at Vaporeon again. I got a run where I made it to Vaporeon with 4 Pokemon left. Both Geodude and Ghastly got one shot, but Drowsy came in and hit a clutch Hypnosis through a Sand Attack. This allowed me to swap to Ivysaur and Leech Seed. Vine Whip the next turn did a painfully small amount of damage. This thing is going to need to sleep a long time. Okay, 4 turns. 5. How long is this thing gonna sleep? Uh-oh, it woke up. But it crit! It's almost dead! If we can take 1 hit... No, we can't. But don't worry, we still have Drowsy. And there it goes. So close. After about 30 more minutes of attempts, I got to Vaporeon with a full HP Drowsy, which is the only Pokemon that can take a special attack. Vaporeon tried to Sand Attack and missed, and Drowsy was able to put it to sleep. I am in fantastic shape here. I decided it was time for Geodude to explode and end this fight. Do what must be done, Armed Rock. Okay, that did literally nothing. I guess Ivysaur will have to handle this from here. Leech Seed and Vine Whip are able to bring it down to low HP again, but Aurora Beam does its thing and takes us out. I went for a Confuse Ray with Ghastly, but all I had to do was click Nightshade, and this fight would have been over. Surely I won't get punished for that mistake. Okay, bye Ghastly. Once again, my last chance is Drowsy, and for some reason I went for Hypnosis instead of just attacking. I think my brain was melting from all the attempts. I was just clicking status moves instead of attacking, and then it missed anyway. After this, I finally came to my senses, and Vaporeon didn't punish me by attacking, so Pound was able to finish it off. Whew, I definitely tried to throw that one, but glad to move past this fight. It wasn't nearly as crazy as Erica, but this Vaporeon being almost unstoppable could be a sign of troubling times down the road. After beating Blue, I could access the Silph Co Giovanni fight. I just realized I didn't even mention the first Giovanni fight, but don't worry, you really didn't miss anything. I realized halfway through this fight that Ghastly beats his entire team, so with zero strategy, I first tried this fight. Pretty much all you need to know about this one and the previous fight. Now we move on to the level 50 capped gym leaders, Sabrina and Koga. I decided to start with Sabrina because it was more accessible, and her team isn't overly scary. Rocking the entire Abra evolution line means she will have powerful special, but the Abra doesn't even have an attacking move, so we're really only fighting 2 Pokemon. This fight wasn't overly complicated, so I won't tease you and pretend like this took a long time. I let off with Doduo to take down Abra. Doduo has a really strong attack stat for its level, so it handles the Abra through a few flashes pretty easily. After that, the fight really starts. I swap into Lapras, a newly acquired Pokemon from Silph Co. With it being tanky and learning moves like Sing, Confuse Ray, Surf, and Ice Beam. After putting Kadabra to sleep, I bring out Onix. 3 straight Screeches lands her Kadabra at -6 defense, and since it continues to snooze, I bring out the hard-hitting Bird, which is able to one-shot with a single Tri-Attack. Her last Pokemon out is Alakazam. If this thing hits me, I'm certainly dead, but it knows both Reflect and Recover, which won't hit me at all, and Psywave is completely random damage. So we just need to avoid Psychic. Well, Lapras goes down instantly to a Psychic. Next I go to Drowsy, and it's able to land a Hypnosis as Alakazam attempts to heal at full HP. I bring Onix back out for more Screeches to get it to -6. After doing a little with Tackle, Onix goes down. Butterfree comes in and manages to survive a Psywave on 3 HP and put it back to sleep. Finally, Doduo comes out and goes for the kill, only to be foiled by a critical hit ignoring all of our Screech drops. Fortunately, one more knocks it out and wins one of the easiest gym fights yet. Some of these gym leaders' teams are absolutely terrible. I'm not talking about you, Erica. Skipping ahead to Koga's gym. You don't need to hear about me driving down Cycling Road, do you? Well, I guess you just did, didn't you? Now, don't start thinking this challenge is gonna get easy. As I'm battling through Koga's gym, I find myself wiping to a regular gym trainer with 2 Pokemon. A Drowsy and a Hypno. I reset and tried again, and lost again to the Drowsy and the Hypno. I literally had to go back to the PC and game plan for a random trainer with 2 Pokemon. If that isn't this challenge in a nutshell, I don't know what is. After grabbing new Pokemon and giving it another try, I still lose not once, but twice. Finally, on the 3rd try, I take him down, and I'm teased with one of the goofiest lines in all of Pokemon. Alright, after that nightmare, I could finally take on Koga. If one of his random trainers gave me that much trouble, then traumatized me afterward, I can only imagine how bad Koga will be. On our first try, Venonat one-shots our Doduo, and I reset immediately. Great start! On the next try, Doduo does what I was hoping for the first time and takes out one Venonat and nearly takes out a second. I bring out Drowsy to finish it off, but take half damage from confusion damage and a Psychic. His 3rd Venonat comes out. Can we talk about how crazy it is Koga is rocking 3 Venonats? And Drowsy puts it to sleep. I swap to my own Venonat and start landing Psychics, hoping for special drops. Special drops are awesome here because in Gen 1, the special stat being combined means that his Psychics will do less to me because his special attack, which is mixed with special defense, has been dropped, as well as mine doing more because his special has been dropped, therefore special defense has been dropped. So getting a special drop is almost like getting an attack and a defense drop. Fortunately, we do get one and are able to do half damage to Venonat number 3 before going down. I bring out Butterfree to put it to sleep and get poisoned in the process. I stay in and take Venonat down, but take a ton from toxic damage. Finally, Koga brings out his ace Venomoth, which leads with Double Team? Are you serious? After getting taken down, I have to go to Ivysaur and hoping and hit a Leech Seed through the double teams, and somehow I do after a couple of tries. Immediately after, a Psychic knocks Ivysaur out, and then Onix and Drowsy in sequence. This Venomoth could be a problem, but it wasn't overly hard to get there. Let's see if that will be consistent. After a few more tries, I went back and swapped my Venonat for Lapras. Venonat is getting destroyed by everyone, and Lapras just fits this fight better. Immediately after the swap, I was able to get to Venomoth again. This time I put it to sleep with Butterfree and confused it. I was able to get some confusion luck, and I put Venomoth to sleep twice, the second time right as Toxic took down Butterfree. Fortunately, Butterfree's last stand allowed Onix to come in and rock throw Venomoth to death. This fight took a bunch of tries, but not a ton of real time. Let's hope the trend continues as we battle everyone's favorite fiery old man, Blaine. In the first attempt, I led with the Water Turtle. Water Snake? Water Dragon? What is Lapras? I'm not even sure. And using both Sing and Surf, Blaine's Ninetales goes down. Rapidash comes out and immediately KOs in response. I brought out Onix for a Screech and got the dash to -6, but Fire Spin trapped me and finished Onix. Because of the defense drops, Doduo was able to take it down in 2 tri-attacks. Finally, Arcanine comes out and sets up Reflect, as I use Growl to minimize its physical damage, but a takedown still one-shots. It also takes out Ivysaur and nearly takes out our newly evolved Hypno, but after a couple of misses, Hypnosis finally hits. Slowly chipping away after a few turns does a small amount of damage before it wakes up and finishes us off. Butterfree is able to come in and both Sleep Powder and confuse it, but we didn't get quite enough luck to win it. A few tries later, I made it back to Arcanine and I was able to put it to sleep with my last Pokemon. Combined with Leech Seed, I got it to red HP, but it wasn't quite enough. I'm really close to pulling this off, but I decided to take a break and come back later. I came back and my literal second attempt back, Lapras went Insano mode. After taking down Ninetales, Rapidash knocked it down to 4 HP, but Lapras battled through and took it out with Surf. Arcanine came out, and expecting to be KO'd, I kept clicking Surf, but apparently Arcanine just wants to set up Reflect over and over until we won. I assume this was some sort of Gen 1 AI thing, but I don't care. I will take it. Level 26 Lapras sweeps Blaine. After Blaine, there's really only one thing to do, which is go on the road to Viridian City. Once we get there, we can challenge Giovanni for the 3rd time. The first 2 fights against him were so uneventful that I barely mentioned them. Will that be the case for the final gym leader? Well, we have a hard counter for his lead Dugtrio. It doesn't have a move that can hit a flying type, so I lead Doduo for the free KO. When he brings out Persian, I counter with the Ghost type Haunter. Between Confusion and Nightshade, which does typeless damage in this game, I eventually take it out because it can't hit us either. Giovanni brings out his Nidoqueen, and because I made the mistake of believing Cerebee's moveset list again, I don't know why I ever trust Cerebi. I didn't know it had Earthquake, which of course KOs. From there, the queen takes out 3 more of my Pokemon. Ivysaur is eventually able to take it down, bringing out Nidoking, which inexplicably decides never to attack, allowing Ivysaur to slowly but surely take it out again. His final Pokemon is Rhydon, which one-hits Ivysaur and does the same to Lapras. This fight doesn't seem too bad. Let's hope I didn't speak too soon though. After a couple more tries, I realized the Nidos will never attack Ivysaur. This realization means Giovanni's first 4 Pokemon can hit me, meaning I just need to beat the Rhydon. I got back to Rhydon right away and was able to do some damage with Ivysaur before going down. I bring out Haunter, who actually outspeeds 29 levels lower and landed a Confuse Ray. Rhydon did me a massive solid and hit itself 3 times in a row, allowing Haunter to take it out with Nightshade. That is all 8 gym battles complete using Pokemon at half the gym leader's level. But our journey isn't over yet. Our rival in the Elite Four await us. I immediately head over to Route 22 and encounter Rival 6. He leads with Sand Slash, which is hard countered by Haunter. This Sand Slash doesn't have a ground move, which is pretty weird, but very Gen 1, and its only move that can hit us is weak and not very effective Poison Sting. The deadly combo of Confuse Ray and Nightshade take it out quickly. Blue follows up with Scrambled Eggs, who are immediately confused by our Ghost. Nightshade and Confusion continues to do work, and Haunter goes untouched through another Pokemon. After taking it down, this level up also gives us Hypnosis, a move which will certainly be useful going forward. Magneton comes in and immediately paralyzes us, but Haunter is able to make use of its new move and snooze the Magneton. As it sleeps, Haunter nearly takes us out, but Magneton wakes up in time to finally take out Haunter. I bring out Hypno, who finishes it off with a couple of Confusion. After a few turns of Hypnosis on Ninetales, I'm finally able to put it to sleep. This allows Lapras to come out and surf it to death. With only 2 Pokemon left, I'm feeling good. But that feeling quickly goes away as Kadabra comes in and one-shots with Psybeam. Fortunately, Hypno puts it to sleep and allows Doduo to come in and take it down via a critical hit. Finally, out comes his Ace Vaporeon, which gave us a lot of trouble last time. And I think it hit its head or something because it's just using Haze over and over, just Haze and Haze, and yet another example of broken Gen 1 AI. Without these kinds of AI quirks, who knows if we would have actually made it to this point in the game. Oh, and was that a first try victory? I don't think that has happened on any boss fight in the entire run, except I think Giovanni's. He doesn't count though. That must mean this challenge is going to end well. Now we have access to Victory Road, and man, these wild Pokemon are scary. Fortunately, Haunter is so ridiculously fast for its level, we can actually escape most of the wild Pokemon outside of Golbats. This helps us avoid having to run back to the Poké Center when a wild Pokemon KOs half our team. After getting through the cave and training my team to the level cap of 31, yes, we're taking on the Elite Four with a team of level 31 Pokemon. I went hunting for elixirs. We're gonna need all the power points we could possibly get for this Elite Four run. After gathering them all, it's time to take on the Elite Four. My team of choice consists of Lapras for reasons mentioned earlier in the challenge, Hypno because it's one of the tankiest Pokemon I have access to and can learn status moves, Haunter because it learns statuses and is extremely fast, plus that Ghost typing will be very useful for certain matchups, Ivysaur because it evolves in 1 level as we go, and as well as the all-important Leech Seed. Body Slam Paralysis could come up as well. Dodrio is there purely for its attack power, but its flying typing could be useful against ground moves too. Finally, I'm bringing Onix because of its massive defense and rock typing, plus the all-important Screech to help us take down these high-level Pokemon. Now let's see if 6 level 31 Pokemon can beat the entire game. First is Loralee, the Ice Lady. So naturally, I start off with my own Ice type. The Confuse Ray Sing combo works for a second, but Dugong immediately wakes up and KOs Ivysaur with an Ice Beam. Need a little better luck. I can't afford to lose Ivysaur on the first Pokemon, so I reset. The next attempt goes better, and Ivysaur is able to Leech Seed and slowly chip it down with Razor Leaf. Unfortunately, an Ice Beam the next turn ends it for the Leafy Dino. Or is it a frog? I always think Venusaur looks like a frog, but I guess Ivysaur doesn't, so I'm going with Dino. Haunter is able to survive one Ice Beam and Confuse, but Cloyster hits through and takes it down with a second. I bring out Lapras to sleep and confuse it after a couple of turns, then bring out our muscle, Dodrio. After a few hits though, Cloyster wakes up and KOs us. Her team is full of hard-hitting Pokemon, so this fight could be really tough. A few tries later, I get some good sleep and confusion luck, and we end up making it through her Slowbro and onto her 4th Pokemon, Jinx, with all 6 Pokemon remaining. I swap into Haunter, but immediately went down to 2 Ice Punches. Lapras was able to land a Confuse Ray and put it to sleep, but as soon as I swapped to Ivysaur, it woke up. I decided to stay in and got bounced by an Ice Punch. I brought in Hypno and got put to sleep, then handled by 2 more attacks. From there, Jinx one-shot my other 3 Pokemon. Jinx literally wiped my entire team there. As I continued attempts, I was amazed at how many ended on the first Pokemon, Dugong. This thing refused to stay asleep. I would put it to sleep, confuse it the next turn, then swap to Ivysaur, and probably 75% of the time, it would already be awake. Once that happened, I would have to swap back into Lapras, who would then have to put it to sleep again, but half the time it would get taken to low HP or take it out before it could. After several attempts, I finally got back to Jinx, so I swapped to Hypno. It went for Thrash, which is best case scenario because I could swap to Haunter for free, because it couldn't hit with Thrash and it would get the second effect of Thrash, Confusion. Haunter lands a Hypnosis, and then I go for Lick, and it doesn't affect it? Apparently Lick doesn't work on Psychics this game? The one Ghost move, and it not only sucks and isn't super effective, it literally doesn't affect it. Oh well, back to our old faithful, Nightshade. Fortunately, Jinx is in a snoozing mood, so it doesn't notice that we tried to lick it, and we're able to take it out several turns comes after it with Nightshade. Finally, her Lapras comes out. And does the sprite look a little odd? Sometimes the Pokemon Yellow alt sprites look really good, but sometimes they just look goofy. That being said, Haunter is able to land a Confuse Ray, get a Confusion hit, then put it to sleep with Hypnosis. It immediately wakes up, and after a missing Confusion hit, I managed to snooze it again. I swapped to Ivysaur to lay the seed, then start hacking away with Razor Leaf. I got it on a red HP, but Lorelei foiled our win by whipping out Super Potions. I keep going for Razor Leaf, hoping to stay alive long enough to KO it, but she uses another Super Potion. It's kind of funny that the Elite Four isn't using good potions. I think they know I need help in this challenge. And it certainly does help because Ivysaur is able to finish it off with only one more attack. That was a pretty tough fight, but we have so many more RNG creators on our team now that eventually a fight like this will go our way. After the fight, Ivysaur evolves into Venusaur, which is pretty awesome. It's also probably the first time an Ivysaur has evolved into Venusaur in an initial run during the Elite Four. This thing is usually evolved by the 4th gym. Next up, we have Bruno. Normally the laughingstock of the Elite Four, but pretty much everyone in this run is tough, so I expect Bruno to be the same. I lead off with Lapras and Surf Onix, and it actually one-shots. I figured Onix could finally survive a Surf for once in its life with a 22 level advantage, but with that 4-time weakness and awful special, it still gets wrecked. Out comes Hitmonchan, and Lapras lands a Confuse Ray, but a Fire Punch sneaks through and burns Lapras. Fortunately, Hitmonchan's awful special and fully special moveset means I can stay in and put it to sleep. I swap to Hypno to use Confusion, and it immediately wakes up. Fortunately, it goes down in 2 more attacks without attacking in return. Hitmonlee is out next, so I swap to Haunter, who can't be hit, after a few turns involving Confusion, Nightshade, and Hitmonlee using High Jump Kick when it doesn't affect me, and also hurting itself. It goes down. His next Onix is easily countered by Lapras, unless I swap into Earthquake and die to burn damage. Fortunately, Venusaur's Razor Leaf works just as well and it KOs Onix. Finally, Bruno brings out Machamp, and that's the end of the fight. It's unable to hit Haunter, so several turns of Nightshade ends it. I tried to put some respect on Bruno's name, but he just wouldn't let me. First try victory. Now it may get scary. Get it? Because we're fighting the Ghost Trainer. Agatha starts with Gengar, which only has Mega Drain for Dodrio. Unfortunately, we get a taste of our own medicine and take a Confuse Ray. Dodrio hits itself turn 1, but after that is able to do massive damage with Drill Peck. Gengar's defense is not great. She brings out Golbat, and I decide to stay in for damage. Then she swaps into Haunter? Alright, free damage. I go for another Drill Peck, and she swaps again. More free damage. Finally, the next turn, Golbat actually attacks, well, sort of, it goes for Toxic, and Dodrio knocks it into red HP before going down. I bring out Hypno for Confusion, and she swaps again. The next turn, Haunter goes for Lick, which we learned earlier does not affect Psychics. Thank you. Haunter does manage to confuse me in the next turn, but Hypno fights through and eventually takes it down. Out comes Golbat for what seems like the 10th time, and Hypno takes it down after a Leech Life does decent damage. This fight is going well, but she still has 2 more Pokemon. I bring out Haunter to avoid any Wrap shenanigans and got paralyzed by Glare. I go for Hypnosis, and she swaps again. What is going on? Allowing me to put Gengar to sleep. Thank you, Agatha. I bring out Hypno to confuse it down, and Gengar wakes up with under half HP. It randomly goes for Dream Eater while I'm awake, giving me more free damage. Then hits with Psychic, but doesn't kill and allows Hypno to finish it off. Cobra is now our last Pokemon, and Hypno manages to take it down in 3 shots due to Agatha trying to stare me down instead of just attack. Back-to-back first try victories. I did not think this would be possible in this challenge, especially not in the Elite Four, but somehow we did it. Only 2 more fights left in the challenge. 3rd straight first try victory versus Lance? I start with Lapras, and Gyarados hits me for 40 damage with Dragon Rage. A Sing misses, and another Dragon Rage knocks Lapras down to 49 as a Confuse Ray hits. Gyarados hurts itself, and Lapras says night-night. I bring out Haunter, which was taught Thunderbolt for this Gyarados. 2 shots take it down, and out comes the first Dragonair. I tried to stay in, but a Thunderbolt crit took out Haunter. Lapras landed Confuse Ray, but went down to another Thunderbolt. Hypno came out for sleep, but missed twice as Dragonair hit itself in confusion. After getting paralyzed, Hypnosis finally lands, and Hypno starts to headbutt. It isn't doing much, but after several turns of sleep, it eventually takes it down. The next Dragonair comes out and starts to use our favorite move, Wrap. I tried to stay in and took a little bit more damage, but was released from Wrap and snoozed it. However, it immediately woke up and hit Hyper Beam, taking me down. I followed with Venusaur, who was crushed by an Ice Beam. At that point, the fight was over, so I reset. RIP 3 straight first try victories. After several more attempts, I realized that the first try was actually a bit lucky. Gyarados has 3 moves that it will use on Lapras: Dragon Rage, Leer, or Hyper Beam. It won't use Hydro Pump because of the typing, but if it goes for Hyper Beam, it one-hit KOs Lapras, which is an instant reset. This happens a lot, but fortunately it's at the very beginning, so it doesn't take up much real time. However, if Lapras uses Confuse Ray and it hits through turn 2 with Hyper Beam, that's a reset as well. Sometimes I avoid Hyper Beam turn 1, confuse it, get a confusion hit, Leer or Dragon Rage turn 2, but then miss Sing, giving it one more chance to Hyper Beam. Once you can finally get it to sleep, the swap to Haunter is most ideal because Thunderbolt is a 2-shot, but if it wakes up quickly, Hydro Pump will 1-shot. So overall, Gyarados is a massive pain. A ton of my fights ended there. On the Dragonairs, I tried a few strategies. Initially, I was trying to use Lapras Ice Beam to take them down, but a major problem with the strategy was the second Dragonair knows Wrap and would almost always go for it against Lapras. Then I tried using Venusaur Leech Seed on the Thunderbolt user, then swap Haunter back in. This involved a lot of switching and gave it a lot of time to hit me. Oh, and I should mention, Lance actually uses Hyper Potions, and he has one for every single one of his Pokemon. If they get to red HP, there's a 50% chance he will use it, so there's even more RNG added to a fight that will be riddled with it for us to have a chance to win. After a bunch of resets on Gyarados, I got an attempt where Haunter took down Gyarados without taking any damage, then both confused and slept Dragonair. I tried a new strategy, bringing out Onix for Screech to attempt to save Lapras for other Pokemon. We'll need Ice Beam for Dragonite. After 3 Screeches, Strength is a 3-shot. Fortunately, Dragonair misses once to keep Onix at full HP. The next Dragonair comes out, and I decided to sacrifice Dodrio since it wasn't doing much in the fight. I brought out Lapras with the hope Confusion could save it, but Dragonair took it down to 1 HP. Haunter swapped in and was able to take Bubble Beam and put Dragonair to sleep. My Lapras came back in, hanging on by a thread, and managed to finish off the second Dragonair through a Hyper Potion. Finally, we made it to Aerodactyl. It quickly takes down Lapras, so I bring out Onix. I got a Screech off, but Rock Throw, of course, misses. It was at this moment I realized how dumb I was for not teaching him Rock Slide in the TM from Celadon. Rock Throw is a 65% accurate move, and I'm relying on it in an already ridiculously unlikely fight. Oops. From there, Aerodactyl sweeps the rest of my team, and I realized we had a problem. Can you tell me the scary part about this moveset? I'll give you a few seconds. It's all attacking moves. An extremely fast, strong, level 60 Pokemon only knows moves that will damage my wimpy Pokemon. And it's the 4th Pokemon out. This is going to be a major problem. I'm not sure if anyone but Onix can take a hit, and he can't actually do any damage. Oh, and then we still have Dragonite. When I was thinking about this challenge and if it would be possible, I was thinking Lance had agility on all of its dragons, which they will always use if you have a Pokemon who is weak to Psychic, like in Red and Blue. Once I got to this fight, I realized how wrong I was. Not only does Aerodactyl have all attacking moves, but Dragonite does too. No agility. Honestly, I thought the challenge might be over, but I didn't give up. I had been through too much. I'm talking to you, Erica, to give up now. But how do I beat 2 level 60 Pokemon who are all attacking moves with low level 30 Pokemon? I had to change my strategy. I would need certain Pokemon alive to even have a shot. What I decided was start with the same. Lapras, Confuse Ray, and Sing, then bring out Haunter to take it down. But from there, rather than switching, I left Haunter in. If I'm going to pull this off, Haunter will need to become the king of RNG. No Sleep Turn left unused, no Confusion unhit. I needed Haunter to take not one, but both Dragonairs down. The first time I tried it, it worked perfectly. I made it to Aerodactyl with Haunter at full HP. I tried to stay in for Confusion and survived a wing attack. This was a huge discovery because it showed that Aerodactyl is actually beatable. If a Confusion can land from Haunter, then all we need to do is a turn of Aerodactyl hitting itself and Hypnosis, which we did not get this time. I brought out Onix and got hit by Fly, but survived. Unfortunately, not a second one, so next out was Lapras, who also took a Fly without dying. This is also good news. Then landed an Ice Beam for half damage. Swift finished me off, then Arrow made quick work of the rest of my Pokemon. Though Dodrio did survive one hit as well and managed to get off a Growl. Another massive breakthrough, because if I could get a Growl off earlier in the fight, it could be game changing. After this discovery, I tried a few more times, but didn't get back to Arrow and decided to call it a day, with the intention to come back and find a way to finish this challenge next time. The real reason is my wife was sitting next to me, waiting for me to win, but when I told her it could be hours or days before we won, I was forced to quit. The next day, I got back to work, and after about 20 minutes of attempts, I got back to Aerodactyl, was able to confuse it with Haunter again. After going down, I brought in Dodrio, who got off a Growl without being crit. I thought I was in good shape, but Aerodactyl managed to crit through my Growl twice in a row. Aerodactyl is extremely fast, and with Gen 1, crits being based on speed, relying on a Growl might be a little dicey. Even after this, Onix nearly took it down, but thanks to a 65% Rock Throw missing, it survived. Curse myself again for not knowing Rock Slide, or we could have been to Dragonite. Venusaur gave it a good effort, but a Hyper Potion effectively ended our chances at making it to Dragonite for the first time. After this promising attempt, another 25 minutes went by with no luck. I had an ice fight going into the 3rd Dragonair, only for Haunter to get frozen by Ice Beam. Fortunately, this must have given us good karma, because almost immediately after the freeze attempt, we finally broke through. The fight started off decent, a Dragon Rage from Gyarados, a Confused Ray from Lapras, Gyarados hitting itself, and a Sing connected. I swapped to Haunter, Gyarados continued to snooze, and 2 Thunderbolts took it down. The first Dragonair came out, and Haunter, which I forgot to mention is a speed tie here, so a 50-50 every fight to hit first, went first and landed Confuse Ray. Dragonair hit itself twice in a row, giving Haunter time to hypnotize it, and eventually took it down with a Nightshade. A good thing about the second Dragonair is once Haunter takes out both Gyarados and the first Dragonair, it levels up and can outspeed Dragonair 2. This makes this one a bit more consistent, and this time it hit itself twice, just like the first one, and Haunter put it to sleep. Then landed a Nightshade, but it awoke quickly. Another Hypnosis and 2 more Nightshade without a Hyper Potion had me back to Arrow with full HP. After nearly going down to a Wing Attack, a Confuse Ray, and a self-hit by Arrow, then a Hypnosis had us in good shape, or so I thought. I swapped to Lapras and it immediately woke up. A Swift didn't KO though, so an Ice Beam brought it to under half. After it flew up, I swapped Onix to take the hit and started screeching. Unfortunately, the next Fly crit took Onix out. I brought in Hypno, who survived on 17 HP and landed Hypnosis. Lapras came back out and landed an Ice Beam to KO right as Aerodactyl woke back up. We have made it to Dragonite for the first time. By the way, it's been like an hour and a half before we made it to Dragonite. Now, the one good thing I didn't mention about Dragonite's moveset is every move has a chance to miss. So if we can get a lucky miss, we have a chance. Which we didn't. RIP. Don't worry, it can miss on Haunter, but it doesn't. One more chance with Hypno, and it connects again. The last two don't have status moves, but they get one hit KO'd anyway. Our first fight all the way to Dragonite ends in tragedy. But we have a recipe for success. Dragonite needs to miss an attack for us to win. With all of the RNG already required for us to get there, is this even possible? I mean, we know it is possible, but is it feasible? Will I be here for the next 10 years attempting this fight, or can I get the luck we need somewhat soon? Look, we spent 8 hours on Erica. I'm not giving up till we cross that line. One encouraging thing is that our strategy for the first few Pokemon is definitely more consistent than it was at the beginning. I made it right back to Dragonite less than 5 minutes later, though it was with only one Pokemon. But it was a boost of energy seeing that final Pokemon twice in 5 minutes of real time. About 20 minutes later, I got an attempt that started to fall off the rails on the third Dragonair when Haunter got KO'd early. But because it was still confused, Lapras was able to take it down with Ice Beams. I brought Onix in to take Fly and landed a Screech. After Onix was finished off, Hypno was able to come in and Sleepify. Lapras came back in, and Aerodactyl cooperated for once, staying asleep through multiple Ice Beams and a Hyper Potion, and showing its Dragonite yet again. After some debate, I stayed in and risked the miss, and got it! Thunder whiffed and allowed Lapras to connect with Sing and put it to sleep. This is it. All we have to do is quad effective Ice Beam for the win. Ice Beam does half, one more should do it. Dragonite stays asleep, and here it is! Wait, it survived on 1 HP? Annoying, but fine, because it's still sleeping. I go for the final blow, and Hyper Potion. Great. The 50-50 on both Aerodactyl and Dragonite. Maybe we can hit the range this time. Wait, I'm out of Ice Beams! Oh no! I panicked for a second because Surf is going to do nothing to Dragonite. What do? I decided to set up a Confuse Ray, and Dragonite wakes up. Dragonite goes to attack and hits itself. Okay, we're still alive. Sync connects. We should have this for real this time. After some debate on who would do the most damage, I swapped into Dodrio. I had to take this thing down before it woke up. Drill Peck does much less than I was hoping, but Dragonite continues to sleep. After 2 more, it hung on at 1 HP, but woke up. Not to worry, it is confused. If it hits itself, the fight's over. I slow rolled the game as I was playing because I was so nervous, and it hit through confusion with Thunder and KO Dodrio. Fortunately, we still have multiple other Pokemon and it's still confused. I brought out Venusaur and went for Body Slam. All we need is a confusion hit, and Dragonite hits through again with Blizzard. Lapras has been great for us this whole run. Dragonite's still confused, and it hits through for a third straight time to KO. This cannot be happening. I bring out Hypno, Dragonite snaps out of confusion, and Hyper Beams it to death. I was unbelievably angry after this. I wrote in my notes, worst luck I've ever had, and that cannot, I mean, it can't be untrue after what you just saw. Lance's back-to-back Hyper Potions on Aerodactyl and Dragonite were enough to PP stall Lapras's Ice Beam, which turned out to be fatal. 3 straight confusion turns without hitting itself, and then landing 3 inaccurate moves, 2 Thunder, 1 Blizzard, and then finally Hyper Beam, which is also 90 accurate. Unbelievable! And that is how this challenge ends. I was so unbelievably frustrated with the terrible luck I'd had that I rage quit. I was done. No more of this. I can't handle being screwed over by terrible RNG. We should have won that fight. I mean, how did we not win that fight? It's just stupid. Thanks for watching. Psych, you didn't actually believe that, did you? I'm not gonna quit now. About 30 minutes later, I made it back to Dragonite with Lapras on low HP. After getting KO'd by Fire Blast, I brought in a full HP Hypno who can tank a Blizzard? Boom, somehow Hypno survives and lands a Hypnosis. But this time, Lapras is gone. Are we damaging this thing? How about Old Faithful Leech Seed? After the seeds were laid, I brought Haunter back in to annoy him to death. After setting up Confuse Ray, I just kept clicking Hypnosis until he woke up so I could put it back to sleep. After 2 turns of Hypnosis while he was already sleeping, Dragonite finally woke up and we smacked it back into Snoozeville. Nightshade plus Leech Seed was doing great damage, and it looks like this might be enough to take it down if it doesn't wake up, and it didn't. Yes, redemption. This fight was ridiculously annoying, but not because it was anywhere close to the Erica fight in terms of time. I think because the Elite Four had gone so smoothly before, running into a 2-hour wall was really frustrating. But finally winning the fight was amazing. And though it feels like that should be the end of the challenge, we still have to take on our rival one last time. Will it take as long as Lance, Erica? I certainly hope not. Gary leads with Sandslash versus our Lapras. Earthquake immediately one-shots. Well, this won't be Bruno or Agatha, it seems. The next attempt, Sandslash goes for Poison Sting, which does almost nothing. The next turn, Slash KOs. So it looks like 2 of its moves will be an instant reset. I'm not liking the look of this. After several more tries, I finally get Sandslash to cooperate and take it down with Surf. The next Pokemon out is Alakazam, who KOs instantly with Psychic. I bring out Hypno, who can tank all of its attacks. I press goodnight, but it wakes up quickly, and we are eventually able to get it back to bed. I swap to Onix and start screeching. After a couple more, I bring out Dodrio, and Zam wakes up. Fortunately, it doesn't attack me, but Drill Peck crits, ignoring the defense drops. He keeps using Kinesis, then heals with Recover. So I swap back to Hypno to shake the accuracy drops, only to get knocked out. Back to Dodrio, who gets melted by Psychic. Same thing happens to Onix and Haunter, leaving Venusaur, who body slams twice to get past the scary Psychic Man. Out comes Executor, and I just call it an attempt. We aren't beating 4 Pokemon with just Venusaur. The very next attempt, I managed to get back to Executor with Dodrio out. Drill Peck does a quarter, but Egg Bomb eventually takes out our bird. Haunter shenanigans are good enough to finish off the chunky tree, getting us to Ninetales for the first time. Oddly, Ninetales did not seem to want to attack. It hands us our own medicine with a Confuse Ray, then just spams it again over and over. Eventually, after hitting myself multiple times, I landed my own Confuse Ray, then Hypnosis, then went for Thunderbolt. It woke up for a moment, only to be slept again, allowing Haunter to finish the job. Blue sent out Magneton, who Thunderbolts our Ghost into oblivion. Onyx, who counters Magneton well, lands multiple Screeches, but even with those, Strength is like a 5-hit KO. Fortunately, Swift isn't doing too much to us, and that's if Magneton even selects it. Finally, the dreaded Vaporeon. We got to his final Pokemon a lot faster than Dragonite, so this is good. But it makes quick work of my last Pokemon. We won't get off that easily. I got the perfect start to an attempt with Sandslash Fury Swipes miss, then a Confusion hit, and a Sing connected. 2 Surfs finished it off. That's about as clean as it gets. Hypno hopped in, tanked a Psychic, and landed Hypnosis. Onyx came in for a Screech, but I went back to Hypno to keep it asleep. Alakazam can derail an entire attempt with Psychic and recover. Alakazam kept lowering my accuracy with Kinesis, but somehow Hypno still hit a normally inaccurate Hypnosis through an accuracy drop. Onyx finally got off a 3rd Screech, then Dodrio came in for the one-shot. I left in the bird to peck the tree, and it was going crazy, only for Blue to whip out the full restores. Uh-oh. Glad Lance didn't have those, or else we might still be stuck on that fight. I brought out Haunter to do his thing, and I just need to highlight how much of an MVP Haunter has been on this E4 run. Without this thing, I don't think this challenge is possible. Even an unevolved level 34 Haunter is an absolute menace. Oh yeah, and it took down the tree. You know it did. Ninetales followed, and we traded Confuse Rays. I stayed in for sleep, then brought Lapras back out. A couple of Surfs did good damage, but Ninetales woke up and used Fire Spin. After swapping back and forth, trying to shake Confusion and Fire Spin, I realized that against Ninetales, I'm always going to be confused, and eventually hit through with Lapras to KO. Magneton came out, and you know what happens here. Onyx does his thing, leaving us with one final Pokemon once again. I decided to sack Onyx for a free swap, then brought out Lapras for Confusion. Vaporeon even cooperated with us, but Lapras decided the singing voice wasn't there today, and eventually went down to 2 quick attacks. I went to Haunter, got KO'd with Hydro Pump, then to Venusaur thinking we had lost. Somehow we got off a Leech Seed before going down, and all that's left is Hypno. Vaporeon attempts for a Mist, which fails, allowing Hypno to land Hypnosis. Leech Seed plus Confusion is doing good damage, and we have Vaporeon down to red HP. This could be it. I go for the winning hit, only for Garrity, who's a full restore, not only healing Vaporeon, but waking it up as well. Game over. After a Hypnosis miss, I knew it was done, but somehow Hypno hung on after an Aurora Beam and landed a snoozer. Stay asleep. Leech Seed is massively healing me, and Confusion is doing okay damage. Maybe, just maybe. Once it got to low HP, I thought it might wake up, so I went for Hypnosis. When it didn't wake up, I swapped back to Confusion, knowing it would die that turn. Well, I thought it would die that turn. But Vaporeon was confused and somehow hit itself. Is that from Confusion at some point? I don't even care. We won. We won. This challenge is finally over. Oh my gosh. It's finally over. After over 23 hours of real time, I finally beat Pokemon Yellow with Pokemon half of my opponent's level. This was a challenge I wasn't sure I could complete before I started. When I was in the challenge, especially against Erica and definitely against Lance, I am incredibly happy to have pulled it off. This one feels like a real accomplishment. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see me try this in Gen 2, let me know in the comments. Also, don't forget to subscribe and check out the Twitch channel to see me do runs live. If you want to see more full run videos, I have a lot more in the playlist on the screen, and happy Nuzlocking.